Welcome to Rift Valley Tube, your source for unbiased stories and analysis focused on African affairs. I'm your host, Suleiman Ali. Throughout history, the intricate interplay between leadership and a nation's stability has been a subject of paramount importance. The dynamic relationship between these two factors can either lead a nation towards prosperity and unity, or plunge it into chaos and despair. As we explore this fascinating dynamic, we'll uncover the lessons from historical examples and contemporary cases that illuminate the complex dance between leadership and stability. But before we begin, I want to remind you, our valued listeners, to hit that like button, share this episode with your friends, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel so you never miss an insightful discussion. Now, let's dive into today's exploration of the perils and promises associated with leadership in unstable contexts, where we'll draw wisdom from the past and reflect on the present. Across the annals of time, the delicate interplay between leadership and a nation's stability has stood as a matter of utmost significance. The intricate dynamics between these facets wield the potential to guide a nation towards the zenith of prosperity and unity, or cast it into the depths of turmoil and desolation. In this narrative, we embark on a journey to uncover the enigmatic nuances of leadership's role in unstable contexts, traversing through the realms of history to unearth the lessons woven into the complex choreography of leadership and stability. Furthermore, we will intertwine a contemporary thread, delving into the case study of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed of Ethiopia, illuminating the repercussions that unfurl in the wake of unstable leadership. The perils of unstable leadership. An unstable leader taking charge in a country already grappling with internal turmoil is a recipe for disaster. The characteristics of instability, including erratic decision-making, authoritarian tendencies, and a lack of transparency, often mark their tenure. This further erodes trust within the government and the populace, exacerbating existing instability. The combined effects of an unstable leader and an already fragile country create a perfect storm of uncertainty, conflict, and economic hardship. These leaders often prioritize personal ambitions over the well-being of their nation, turning a vulnerable state into a playground for their ego-driven pursuits. This synergy amplifies the risks and consequences, leaving a lasting impact even after their reign. Historical examples of leadership's downfall. Nicolae Ceausescu, a reign of unstable leadership and his ultimate downfall. Nicolae Ceausescu's tenure as the leader of Romania serves as a stark illustration of the perils of unstable leadership and its dire consequences for a nation and its people. Nicolae Ceausescu's rule was marked by erratic decision-making, authoritarian tendencies, and a lack of transparency, characteristics that led to the eventual downfall of his regime and his own tragic demise. Ceausescu's rule, which began in 1965 and extended until 1989, was characterized by a consolidation of power that dismantled Romania's institutions and suppressed any form of opposition. His erratic decision-making was evident in his pursuit of grandiose projects that prioritized his image and ambitions over the well-being of the Romanian people. This included the construction of grandiose palaces, while the majority of the population endured economic hardship and scarcity. Ceausescu's authoritarian tendencies led to censorship, suppression of civil liberties, and a surveillance state. Dissent and criticism were met with harsh reprisals, and the regime's security forces instilled fear and suppressed opposition. The lack of transparency further deepened mistrust. Nicolae operated in secrecy, controlling information and shaping a narrative that suited his interests. The peak of unstable leadership, Nicolae Ceausescu, came to a head in December 1989.
Cetățeni ai capitalii României socialiste, doresc în primul rând să vă adresez dumneavoastră, participanților la această mare adunare populară, tuturor locuitorilor municipiului București un salut călduros, revoluționar, împreună cu cele mai bune urări de succes în toate domeniile de activitate.
To assert his endangered power, Ceausescu addressed a mass rally like so many which he had ordered to be held during the prior 25 years. Television transmits live.
Doresc de asemenea să adresez mulțumiri inițiatorilor și organizatorilor acestei mari manifestări populare din București, considerând aceasta ca o
The peak of unstable leadership, Nicolae Ceausescu, came to a head in December 1989. The people's frustration with decades of economic hardship, political oppression, and the ruling couple's extravagant lifestyle culminated in widespread protests. The tipping point occurred in the city of Timisoara, where protests against the regime sparked a violent crackdown. The unrest then spread to Bucharest, the capital. On December 21, 1989, Nicolae Ceausescu addressed a massive crowd from the balcony of the Central Committee building in Bucharest. To his shock, instead of applause and praise, he was met with boos and chants demanding his resignation. The facade of unwavering support had crumbled, and the true extent of his unpopularity was laid bare. With the protests intensifying and the security forces losing their grip, Nicolae Ceausescu and his wife Elena attempted to escape Bucharest by helicopter on December 22, 1989. However, their plan was thwarted, and they were captured by the military. The regime's downfall was imminent. The Ceausescus were swiftly put on trial, facing charges of genocide and economic sabotage. The trial, conducted in a makeshift court, was marked by chaos and irregularities. On December 25, 1989, both Nicolae and Elena Ceausescu were sentenced to death by a firing squad. The sentence was carried out immediately, and they were executed in a courtyard in Targobeast. The gruesome scene marked the end of a regime built on unstable leadership. Nicolae Ceausescu's reign exemplifies the disastrous outcomes that can result from unstable leadership. His erratic decisions, authoritarian rule, and lack of transparency sowed the seeds of discontent and unrest. The Romanian people's uprising and the subsequent execution of Ceausescu's symbolize a turning point in the nation's history, leading to Romania's transition towards democracy. Ceausescu's story serves as a sobering reminder of the profound impact that leaders' choices can have on the destiny of a nation and its citizens. It underscores the necessity of leaders who prioritize stability, inclusivity, and the well-being of the people, a lesson that resonates not only in Romania's history, but also in the broader context of leadership around the world. Next, let's look in the case of Idi Amin. Unstable leadership and the downfall of Uganda's tyrant. The reign of Idi Amin as the leader of Uganda stands as a chilling testament to the perils of unstable leadership and its catastrophic impact on a nation and its people. Amin's erratic decision-making, brutal authoritarianism, and disregard for human rights plunged Uganda into an era of darkness, leading to his eventual downfall amid widespread suffering and violence. Amin seized power through a military coup in 1971, marking the beginning of a brutal regime characterized by erratic and impulsive decision-making. His lack of coherent policies led to a chaotic governance structure, where personal interests and whims took precedence over the well-being of the Ugandan population. Amin's rule was punctuated by corruption, brutality, and political repression, exemplifying the consequences of unstable leadership. Amin's authoritarian tendencies were evident in his suppression of civil liberties, censorship of the media, and persecution of political opponents. The regime's security forces engaged in widespread torture and extrajudicial killings, creating an atmosphere of fear and obedience. Amin's erratic behavior further destabilized the country as he made unpredictable decisions without considering the long-term consequences for Uganda and its people. Under Amin's rule, Uganda's economy deteriorated rapidly. Industries were nationalized, foreign investments were shunned, and the expulsion of Asian Ugandans resulted in significant economic disruption. Amin's policies contributed to a devastating economic decline that left the majority of Ugandans struggling to survive. The peak of Amin's unstable leadership came with the state-sponsored violence and mass killings that characterized his regime. The most infamous event was the brutal expulsion of Ugandan Asians in 1972, during which an estimated 80,000 people were forcibly removed from the country. Amin's reign of terror led to the deaths of countless Ugandans, further solidifying his position as one of history's most notorious dictators. The tide began to turn against Amin in the late 1970s, as regional tensions escalated. In 1978, Amin ordered the invasion of neighboring Tanzania, which proved to be a disastrous miscalculation. The Tanzanian military, along with Ugandan exiles, launched a counteroffensive that eventually led to Amin's ousting in 1979. As Tanzanian forces and Ugandan exiles closed in on Kampala, Amin's grip on power weakened. On April 11, 1979, Amin fled the capital, seeking refuge in Libya. His escape marked the end of his brutal rule, but the legacy of his instability and cruelty would continue to haunt Uganda for years to come. After his ousting, Amin lived in exile in various countries, including Saudi Arabia. He spent his remaining years isolated from the world, with few nations willing to offer him sanctuary. In August 2003, Amin passed away in Jeddah, Saudi Arabia, bringing an end to a life marked by instability, brutality, and the tragic consequences of unchecked power. Idi Amin's reign serves as a stark reminder of the far-reaching consequences of unstable leadership. His erratic decision-making, authoritarian rule, and brutal repression left Uganda scarred and its people traumatized. Amin's legacy underscores the importance of leaders who prioritize stability, accountability, and the well-being of their citizens. A lesson that resonates not only in Uganda's history, but also in the broader context of global leadership. Unmasking illusions. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's unstable leadership. In the intricate realm of leadership and stability, Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's masterfully choreographed an illusion of sweeping liberal reforms that promised a transformative era. He presented initiatives such as assembling a gender-balanced cabinet, easing media censorship, enacting the Civil Society Proclamation, releasing political detainees, welcoming exiled opposition figures, and sealing a historic peace agreement with Eritrea. However, beneath this carefully constructed surface, a tapestry of simmering tensions emerged. Ethnic discord weaved its way across Benishangul, Gumuz, Oromia, Amhara, and Somali regional states, igniting significant intercommunal violence. Concurrently, the resurgence of media censorship overshadowed the shine of the reforms. While opposition figures were arrested, purges of political dissent swept through state institutions, and the imposition of military control posts cast a somber shadow over the landscape. In the contemporary spectrum, the case of Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed stands as a stark reminder of the consequences tied to unstable leadership. His impulsive decision-making, authoritarian tendencies, lack of transparency, unpredictable economic policies, and fiscal imprudence echo the traits previously discussed. Identifying and addressing these attributes becomes paramount for citizens, institutions, and the global community. Delving into the intricate relationship between leadership and stability, we draw insights from historical paradigms and contemporary scenarios, such as Abiy Ahmed's. This exploration pierces to the core of unstable leadership, underscoring the importance of endorsing leaders who prioritize their nation's prosperity. A society fortified against instability emerges as a shared aspiration. Prime Minister Ahmed unraveling the layers of unstable leadership. His impulsive decisions, like his own decision to remove Tulel from the terrorist list, released Tigray People Liberation Front criminal leaders, top officials who misused Ethiopian wealth and transfer over $9 billion illegally abroad, have engendered confusion within Ethiopian governance and have sown uncertainty among citizens. Furthermore, his curtailment of civil liberties and suppression of opposition have ignited protests, deepening political turmoil as citizens strive for justice. The veil of secrecy surrounding the Prime Minister fosters mistrust, nurturing conspiracy theories and eroding public faith in the government's credibility. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's audacious economic predictions, like Ethiopia outpacing the U.S. economic, underscore a lack of pragmatic planning. His penchant for fiscal recklessness and the failure to implement sound economic policies contribute to inflation, currency devaluation, and economic instability. Just like Nicolae Ceausescu was at odds with his nation's needs, Abiy Ahmed showcases his priorities with a planned $1 billion palace featuring 3 artificial lakes. This parallel with Idi Amin's extravagance further underscores the discourse. Comparing with other leaders, examining historical leaders uncovers eerie parallels. Muammar Gaddafi of Libya shares Abiy's erratic behavior and authoritarian inclinations. Gaddafi's mismanagement of resources and reluctance to share power plunged Libya into political chaos, culminating in his downfall. Similarly, Hosni Mubarak of Egypt, characterized by opacity and human rights violations, ignited the Arab Spring protests. Economic mismanagement destabilized Egypt, culminating in his resignation amid widespread unrest. The attributes exemplified by Prime Minister Ahmed, mirrored in leaders of the past, magnify leadership's profound impact on stability. Impulsive decision-making, authoritarian tendencies, lack of transparency, unpredictable economic policies, and fiscal imprudence together forge a perilous path. Learning from the tumultuous fates of leaders like Gaddafi and Mubarak underscores the urgency of early recognition to foster a harmonious, prosperous society. Citizens, institutions, and the global community must collaborate to cultivate stable leadership, safeguard citizen welfare, and nurture lasting stability. Amidst the turbulence of leadership, this mandate remains resolute. The episode explores the critical connection between leadership and a nation's stability, showcasing historical instances like Nicolae Ceausescu and Idi Amin as examples of the perils of unstable leadership. Prime Minister Abiy Ahmed's case illustrates the consequences of impulsive decisions, authoritarian tendencies, and a lack of transparency. The importance of stable leadership for societal prosperity is emphasized. Thank you for joining us on Rift Valley Tube, your hub for unbiased African affairs analysis. With Suleiman Ali as your host, we've journeyed through the intricate relationship between leadership and stability. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to our channel to stay engaged in these enlightening conversations. As we reflect on the lessons of history and the present, let's work together towards a stable, prosperous future.